Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And this week we are talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. And often we've talked about sexual harassment in the workplace as it relates to managers and subordinates and, kind of within the workplace, whether it be with colleagues in the office or at work parties or, kind of extending the workplace that way. But today we're going to talk about actually sexual harassment that might be caused by people that aren't working for the company. So what are some things that employers should consider as it relates to others who are around in the workplace or involved in the workplace but aren't actually employees of the company, Russell?
Yeah, so a couple key points. The first one, and you just used the term workplace, is what is the workplace? Obviously, sitting in the office is the workplace, but it's broader than that. Anywhere the employee is working is the workplace. So if that's a job site, that would be included. And especially in this digital age, the workplace can consist of or include, um, you know, electronic transmittal, so text messages, messaging. That doesn't have to be anywhere physically per se, but if it's happening kind of within the construct of work, that can be part of the workplace. Um, and then, so wherever that workplace is, it's always your obligation to protect the employee, and the employee should be free of harassment, whether it comes from a coworker, a manager, or any third party person. So that's someone coming into the workplace, um, a client, a customer, a vendor, a supplier, someone coming in the office to fix the copy machine, whoever it is. Um, if you're obligated to protect your employee from any harassment that might come from that person.
Yeah, I think this is one area that people don't always think about, and it becomes more of a potential issue depending on the industry and depending on how often you actually interact with clients, vendors, or other people outside of the office as far as what we'd consider like employees of the company. There's a couple of different ways to address this too, kind of depending on the industry and who exactly you're talking about, but it's definitely something to be addressed, right? So if you've got regular clients or customers that are coming into contact with your employees, there's ways that you can potentially ask them to be in line with your policies and procedures as it relates to how they treat other people. There's also, on the internal side, how you might want to include things in policy and procedures around with your employees around reporting these types of things, right? So it might be something that employees aren't as keen to think of when someone who comes in to fix the copier says something harassing or does makes a comment or creates an environment that is either sexual harassment or makes someone uncomfortable. So it might not always be something people are thinking about in those instances, or might not think the company can do anything about it, right? So making sure that you call that out in your handbook and that those things are addressed swiftly, and bringing that to employees' attention so that they know to report those things as well, not just a colleague in a break room or something that's making a comment that's inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal or the ideal here is harassment-free workplace, period. And regardless of the source of that harassment, it's just not something that any employer should be condoning in their workplace. And to your point, I mean, depending on who it is, they can be difficult conversations. If it's a big client that's coming in and is harassing people, that can be a really challenging conversation because it affects the business interest of the employer in that case. But I think it still has to be addressed and still should be addressed. And I think failure to address it can lead to problems with the employee or employees who are the subject of the harassment.
And given that these are challenging conversations sometimes, especially as you mentioned with clients or someone who's maybe income matters, there's money being exchanged with that individual as part of how the business is making money, that makes it an actual challenging situation, right? Just like you would have policies and procedures for how you would handle an employee who does something inappropriate, it doesn't hurt to have those policies and procedures as well around, well, exactly how will we handle that? So that you're not scrambling to figure that out at the time, and that you're not, thinking too much about who that harasser or person who's acting inappropriately, or people, or whoever it may be, who they are particularly, and that you have a plan that you can follow if that were to happen.
Yeah. Well, in along those lines, I mean, we generally write it in handbooks is this policy, this anti-harassment policy applies no matter who it is.
Mhm.
And everyone's subject to it and subject to it in the same ways. And I think that, obviously anybody that comes into your workplace from outside is not subject to your employee handbook. But I think the principle there is still applicable no matter who it is. Like, we're going to address it because protecting our employees is paramount. We're not going to allow our employees to be subjected to this, and period. And like Sarah said, like, you can have a plan for dealing with that, and you can tweak it and customize it depending on the situation. But just even getting to the point where we're not going to tolerate it, we're going to protect our employees, period, is a really good starting place for that.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, thanks, Russell, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.